Hi, I'm Sherry Harris, owner of LifeSource Water. Do you know all Bay Area cities add chemicals like chlorine and chloramines to your tap water? At LifeSource, we believe your water should support your family's health. Our whole house system delivers filtered water from every tap, even your showers. For 40 years, we've built our systems right here in California. Upgrade your water today by calling 1-800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com. LifeSource, taste and feel the difference.
Warranty limitations apply.
In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
What a great Saturday to be outside, but I'm inside. I'm caged. Hardly what you'd call freedom, but this show is Freedom Fools, one of 3 shows born at the apex of freedom, entrepreneurship, and nomadism. Welcome to Saturday. I'm Brian. Yep, back just like it was last night. Glad to be in the saddle again. Got a pretty full show for you. Got a guest coming up in just a bit, and then a couple of things. One that will make you think, and then another one that will make you say, Brian, it's like we've always said about you, you are certifiable. Today is Franchise Appreciation Day. Go figure that one out. National Beach Day. It is a bit cool. But my guess is if I were to go to Horseneck or Pope Beach here in Fairhaven, some of the other great beaches all along our coastline here, I'd see a lot of people. Pontegansett, but that's pretty hopping today. It's also National Grief Awareness Day. The famous hotline, well, I guess there are a couple, not the hotline that went from the Bat Cave to the police office, Commissioner Gordon's office in Batman, but the famous hotline between Moscow and Washington, D.C. was installed on this date in 1963 and opened for operation. My guess is Khrushchev was sitting there going, my nukes are better than your nukes. And Kennedy was saying, our nukes are better. Of course, Kennedy only got to use it for a couple of months, but at least it was installed and it was operating. 1967, it must have been a tough day for U.S. senators as they voted to confirm Thurgood Marshall as the first black United States Supreme Court justice. I really wish I could have been a fly on one of the walls in the halls of justice, in that particular case, the halls of the U.S. Senate. 1967, when that happened. The Brian's Beat quote of the day. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you do things differently. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. Billionaire Warren Buffett. You know, as I think about Warren Buffett, he seems to do a lot of things right. I know he got into a bit of a problem down in the south end of New Bedford, but he seemed to rectify that, and that was such a long time ago. He more than 20 years his ruined reputation. I always wondered why it took him so long to decide to buy a real estate company, but look, boom, they're doing great. All right, well, how are you doing on this Saturday afternoon? As you know, we have been talking quite a bit about potential ballot questions, and there's one that I'm really surprised at, happy to talk about it, but really surprised that we don't have anything on the books. Surprised maybe even more so that people have tried to put it on the books and they haven't been able to do so. So what am I talking about? Well, we have the constitutionally elected officers. That would be the governor, lieutenant governor, treasurer, auditor, secretary of state, attorney general. We also have the other county constitutionally elected officers, they being the district attorney and the sheriff. And we have county commissioners. The one thing I did not know until about, I'm going to say 2.5, 3 weeks ago, is the fact that none of them can be recalled. I was shocked. Equally so, I was also shocked to find out that there was an attempt in 2023, like it's 2025 now, 2023, to get a ballot question to recall these officers. We're going to find out what happened with that question. And maybe things will change because there is an attempt now in 2025 to get a ballot question for 2026. It has to be a constitutional amendment. And to talk about this is the chairman of the Ballot Recall Committee. And I might be screwing up the title, but he is the chairman. Michael DeToli is joining us on the program. Michael, good afternoon. Welcome to Freedom Fools.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you having me on.
So let's get to the genesis. 2023. What made you and I guess a few other people, because you can't really do this on your own. What's the genesis behind this recall?
So it was also a surprise, similar to you were talking about, that there was not recall.
My bad on that. I dropped them by accident. So let's see if we can get them back. Hold tight. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. No, that was me. So you hold tight. Are you there now?
I am. So
right.
I was just as surprised as you in terms of that Massachusetts did not have this. So a couple years ago, there was sort of the start of the discussions with Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey's office, and you sort of see that playing out now with what happened in the Karen Reed case, and also with this Matthew Farwell, who was the cop in Stoughton that they've tied to the murder of Sandra Birchmore. So,
can you do that with a cop? I mean, a cop isn't elected.
No, but the district attorney's office presents the evidence to either go forward with the prosecution or not. And what seems to be happening, and you're hearing about it even now with other cases that have happened in Norfolk County, like Brian Walsh, Miles King. For whatever reason, the evidence and the way that things were presented, the district attorney has not met his obligations. And there's a lot of different questions about, is this intentional? In some of the situations, it's been in cases where it would implicate a law enforcement officer. So there was questions about, can you recall a district attorney? And I was surprised to find out the answer is no. And in speaking with different groups, looking sort of into with different state departments and the Secretary of State's office, determining that what was really needed is a constitutional amendment to allow Massachusetts to have that process.
So you couldn't even do a regular ballot question? Because we'll get to that. I'll let you get to it. Am I right, though? You couldn't just do a ballot question?
Correct. Yeah. So there are ballot questions. For example, the question 2 a couple years ago with the MCAS test was a ballot question that was not changing anything in terms of the Massachusetts Constitution.
All right. So why do you need to change the Constitution? If there's no law in the books, aren't you basically getting the people to try to put a law on the books?
Exactly. So that's a great question. And because there's no process defined, we have to define that, but we also have to make sure that it does not interfere with voters' interpretation of free elections. So we want to make sure that any process that's introduced that changes the Constitution doesn't interfere with the intended free and fair elections that we have. So we have to go through a process, the initiative petition process, that starts with the Attorney General's office. And the first step is you need to put forward a petition that outlines this is what the constitutional amendment is that I'm proposing. Here's at least 10 people who are voters registered in Massachusetts that agree and sponsor this. And after the Attorney General determines it's certified, it's consistent with, I think it's Article 8, something like that Article 48 maybe, that outlines the process. Once she deems that is certified, it goes to the Secretary of the Commonwealth, who puts forward a petition that you must now gather and certify 75,000 signatures within, I think it's an 8-week period.
We're talking to Michael Titoli. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Chairman of the Ballot Recall Committee. That part right?
So the Massachusetts Recall Committee is how we have organized. We had to organize because one of the realities I discovered, even though a lot of people like the idea of a recall, is that you do need to raise money in these ballot initiatives. So we organized to make sure that we could fundraise as we're getting the word out there to help us.
I gotta stop you for a second. I understand the part about the money. Mm-hmm. The only people that I could conceivably believe that would be against a ballot initiative like this, the only voters that I could see that would really be like this would be the constitutionally elected officers and the state reps and the state senators. And there are far too few of them.
That's 100% accurate, and that is very true. And as I talk to people, they're just as surprised as you and I that this doesn't already exist, because we've heard a lot of stories from Wisconsin, California. You know, when it happens, it's usually a big news headline. The fact is, it doesn't happen that frequently, but when it does, it's usually for a serious reason. California has had probably the most recalls. I think it's only about 11 in 100 years. So people know about it because they've heard about it in the news, but I think they're not ever aware that Massachusetts doesn't have this mechanism. And that's one of the other things that I'm trying to do, is spread the word on that.
Fair enough. Fall River recently recalled their mayor, and I note here that you go for state reps, state senators, county commissioners, and then the constitutional officers, but you're not really going after the city elected officials. And I wonder, because in New Bedford, they were thinking about changing their charter in order to have city people be under the scrutiny of a recall. Why don't you add all of the elected officials?
Yeah, that's a great point. So in looking at this, and that's another reason why people have familiarized themselves and associate recall here with Massachusetts, is because there are cities and towns individually that within their own home rule charter or town charter or city charter have outlined and approved a process to recall your, mayor, alderman, select board member. And not every city and town in Massachusetts has adopted those. I would guess it's probably 85 to 90%. So when Fall River is going through that process to recall, it might look different than what the town of Arlington would do, because their charter might specify different things in terms of timelines and percentage of signatures you need to verify. So here, looking at doing a district attorney, you would think, well, do you just have to get the cities and towns that he represents? And the answer is no. You first have to get the constitutional amendment that allows the recall election and the successor election and the whole process as we describe it to happen.
So you tried this in 2023. Are you using the same language that you had in 2023?
Yes. Yeah, it's the same language.
What happened then?
So, I was first rodeo. I'm not a lawyer. I did not expect, to be perfectly honest, to be certified with the Attorney General's office, because I looked at the track record of other groups that have put forward things, and especially when it involves voting and elections and, things like that, famously like the voting ID that people have put forward in the last few years, and other things related to elections. And they don't always certify because it's deemed to interfere with free and fair elections. So that was the first kind of piece that first hurdle that I had to overcome, was being able to cite examples in, recent Massachusetts law or cases where, it's been allowed, something along the lines of allowing for recall elections. And we were certified. So that after that, I was like, now what? I wasn't really expecting.
Now what do I do?
I wasn't expecting to get to that point. And when they hand you the petitions and say, you got to certify 75,000, you start doing the math in your head, and you're like, okay, we can do this. We do have a good group, a Facebook group that is pretty motivated. The problem is, the logistics of organizing. One of the things that you really need is bodies, people that are willing to get out there and collect signatures. There's a lot of organizations that you can hire to help you do that. I think in Massachusetts, in recent memory, there's only been one, and I can't tell you exactly which one it was, but one ballot initiative that was 100% grassroots and didn't require outside funding in terms of capturing the signatures. So when all was said and done, I think we got less than 10% of what we needed. So it was not. Yeah, it was not.
I'm listening to this and I'm flabbergasted. I'm thinking this is pretty. Pardon me, I didn't sign it, but I didn't know. Mm-hmm. I was doing a Saturday show in the morning, and sometimes we didn't get that down and dirty when you're talking 7 to 9 a.m. on a Saturday. So this, went over my radar, but it's here now, and we're talking about it now. Would you like to talk to some others about it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
508-996-0500. Thank you. You're on with Michael DeToli.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
So I just want to let you know your introductory monologue motivated me to call you. I was a sergeant in the Army. I served 6 years.
Okay, we've got a guest right now. No, we've got a guest.
I know. I just wanted to let you know that you were completely correct that 1 crap wipes out 1,000 attaboys.
Okay.
That's what you opened up the show with. So I just wanted to say that everything's fine with what I've heard so far from this guest of yours. And I really like that people go out and be proactive and try to make the world a better place and, fight the government, always.
Well, I don't know where you live, but if we have a petition here at the station or Market Basket or whatever, would you get out and sign, or would you get out to try to help get signatures?
Well, I do, and actually I do a lot for the. I'm a white guy. I'm Irish Italian guy, and I do a lot for the Guatemalan community. All right, so I'm involved, and I really like hearing what this guy is saying, but. Then again, on the other hand, I wonder what these quasi-liberal groups have ever done for our country. All
right. Well, let's ask our guest. Thank you for your call. Your group, are you quasi-liberal? Are you centrist? Are you conservative? Michael, what is it?
I think the beauty about recall is it doesn't really matter what political party you're affiliated with. Everyone recognizes that there's corruption within politics. Everyone recognizes that there's poor leadership decisions that impact citizens made in government. And to your point about putting the power in the people's hand, that's exactly what this is for. It's a mechanism to allow for people to have the option to initiate a process if it's deemed appropriate. It's not for any reason. It's not, I don't like the person that just got elected because of their political party. And what I was surprised to learn about is in San Francisco during COVID about 4 years ago, the district attorney that was recalled by the voters, that was initiated by Democrats, and it was a Democrat district attorney. So, it's not using this against another political party per se, but it could be just, again, recognizing corruption or recognizing not prosecuting crimes or not putting forth obligated evidence, those kinds of things.
So you're doing this right now. Well, you did it in 2023, and I think, if I recall correctly, it was because of the thought process at that time was Michael Morrissey, the district attorney in Norfolk County, correct?
Correct.
So now you're bringing it back now in 2025. The Karen Reed trial is more or less a history lesson until it becomes a mini series or whatever is going to be next. But don't you really need a boogeyman or a boogie woman in order to make this thing really click?
That's 100% the issue. Is it's not tied right now. I'm not saying we're going to recall Governor Healy. We're not going to recall, State Rep Flanagan. It's we need to have the mechanism so that the next time there's an outcry, we have that mechanism in place. And that's the tough part, because you're selling this idea of something that's so down the line. It's so forward. We're talking years down the line, that people can't get as motivated as they would if you're calling out a very specific person. So,
well, I would think pardon me for cutting you off like I do with just about everybody anyway. But Michael, I would think this, with the way people are feeling about, pro or con about Maura Healey, and what's going on with the undocumented people, I think that would, you might say, well, if there are people that might want to and at least point the finger in that direction, or we have a former sheriff here who is directly opposite of that. Folks could say, well, you could point the finger at the former sheriff. He's former, obviously, now, but, so you can always point a finger to highlight something.
Yes, there's always going to be a group of people who are unsatisfied with the performance of a elected official. One of the things is there's a signature piece. So if this ends up being on the ballot, if this ends up, being approved by the legislature, and this is something that, we have a constitutional amendment that allows recall, in order to initiate a recall of any elected official, it's going to take getting 25% of the amount of people that voted in the last election to sign a petition. And that is work, right? So you have to make sure there's a big enough group of people who also disapprove in the same way as you do. So that's to prevent there being a recall every year after every election, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And look, it's similar to what you were saying before about, all right, now we've got the option to move forward here. Now what do we do? It will be the same thing. Yeah, we want to recall somebody. Now, what do we do?
Yeah.
I mean,
and so,
you're laying the groundwork. I understand that. I'm just kind of puzzled in two respects. One, as I mentioned earlier, that there isn't a law on the books. And number two, the degree of difficulty that you found, if I'm going off of your less than 10%, you're talking about maybe 5,000 signatures that were gathered. Were they all certified, or did you just say, well, we don't have anywhere near enough? We didn't even bother to go to the different town clerks and whatnot.
Exactly, because that would be a whole headache. And I knew based on what we had in our hand, it wasn't there. And we had a good group of dedicated volunteers, but it really takes a big group, a big organization pushing.
How big?
I think you'd easily need to have, I'd say 500 dedicated volunteers that are available for the 2 months, because the level of work that goes into it, it's not just gathering the signatures, but there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and being able to get people out and talking quickly to get the signatures is not really something that everyone is skilled with. So there's people who are willing to help. We certainly didn't have 500 people on the ground, but that's what I think it would take. That's what I believe it would take.
Is Michael a working man?
Yeah. So I have my summers off. I'm a teacher. So I'm back to work now.
One of those.
Yeah. And so, and so time is never, there's never enough of it. But, I have started speaking with some of the town committees, because I think, the town committees in different cities and towns, just like you and I, we're not aware that, this mechanism doesn't exist currently, and that if this is something they can help us get behind, because you need the weight of some organizations. And I think, that's one area where I think if I can get the word out, it's to Republicans and Democrats and Libertarians and anyone who has a town committee. I'd love to go and speak with them or, share information with them. So, I think that's one of the big pieces that was missing last time was building those relationships.
Well, if it's any word to you, I'm kind of known within the libertarian circles. Maybe I can help with that.
That would be great.
Maybe I can. I can.
I do think it's a cause all the groups, all political parties and independents should be, excited about is the idea, that there is a way to hold elected officials accountable if there is, very specific reasons. Right now in Barnstable, District 1, there's a state rep who in April was charged with, 4 or 5 federal crimes and has been asked to resign by his own political party and has not. And this is 4.5 months we're looking at now. And again, if this mechanism was in place, it would be something that we could utilize. And that's
maybe
the perfect
he's thinking,
example.
or maybe he's thinking about his pension, and doesn't want to get out too soon. I know you laugh about it, but let's face it, man. That those pensions pay pretty damn well.
They do.
They do.
I feel like, is there no shame left where you're
hello? Why are you going forward with what you're doing right now? But maybe a bigger question. You were talking about speaking with the town committees. I'm wondering, you're up in the greater Boston area. Have you talked to anybody in the great and general court? Have you talked to your state rep, your state senator? How are they feeling about this?
No, that's a great question. I have not. And only because I feel like I know the answer, and that's just me assuming that, like you had said earlier, I think the only people who would be against this are those who are currently elected. And that's not to say that my, state rep is, suspect or anything like that. But I do think collectively this would be something that would be a hard sell. I'm not sure. I'm just assuming that. But
may I throw my 2 cents on that?
Yeah.
So you ask them and you get your answer. Now, your assumption is, and correct me if I'm wrong, your assumption is it's a hard sell. They wouldn't go for it. But when you go back to talk to your flock, you then say, well, I talked to my state rep. I talked to my state senator. They're not buying it. That gives a little bit more fuel to your fire.
It does.
I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, no, it's a great point. So it's those kinds of things that obviously we need to implement, because you do need the fire. You need, when there's not a boogeyman, like you say, you need something to motivate people.
Look what Donald Trump is doing. You make one.
So, and that's one thing that I have learned from the last one is, you can't pin it all on hoping that everyone sees corruption within one place. So this time around, some of the sponsors that we have are people who, their families have been impacted by some kind of political corruption. And, typically it's within a DA's office is what, unfortunately, I'm noticing.
Yeah,
there's a lot of power. A lot of power with the district attorney, and that was something I've learned. You're piquing my brain right now. Michael DeToli is joining us, and Michael, I want you to give out a quick Facebook or website where people can contact you to follow up, because my guess is a week from today, you're not going to have the paperwork from the Secretary of State, but you're going to get that green light from the Attorney General. So how can people get a hold of you? Yeah, so that's great. The first thing is, if you could email MassachusettsRecall@gmail.com. MassachusettsRecall@gmail.com is one word. I can get you on a list for any way you want to volunteer and get newsletters out to you. There is a Facebook group called Massachusetts Recall. I think that's what it's called. There's a Twitter as well, Massachusetts Recall. And we started as a crowd pack, and I guess it became Crowd Blue. I don't know what that's about, but it's if you look up Massachusetts Recall elections on crowdpac.com.
Don't even know what it is.
Yeah, it's just a way to get funds for campaigns. So it's another way to...
I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to do it with you first, so if I kind of screw it up, it's my fault. I should just tell people one contact way, whether it's an email or a website or a phone number, just one thing, and make it easier. And then from there, they can be directed to wherever you want them to go. But
so the email is the best.
Yeah, I think so. Michael DeToli with us. So as I said, you piqued my interest. I asked a question, and then, of course, I forgot what you piqued my interest about.
Well, I was talking about how, it was really one group of people who were sort of focused on Norfolk County, Michael Morrissey's district attorney's office. But when you're talking to the whole state, especially 2 years ago, it wasn't really a story that everybody could relate with. People down the Cape or people in the Berkshires couldn't really relate to that.
My good. I tried to avoid that thing like the plague. It was all over the place.
I think 2 years ago it was a little bit more sort of under the radar, and that was kind of the challenge. Is that I knew based on what I had seen and heard, but not everybody was there yet.
So, last couple of questions here, and that would be: you hear from the Secretary of State next week. What are you going to do first?
So we're organizing to collect signatures with the groups of volunteers that we have now. So your typical sort of shopping plazas, supermarkets, areas where there's a lot of public, we'll be out and about collecting there. So we'll start with that. We're going to be pitching to, continue to have, people speak to us, whether it's in person, having a house party, sort of some kind of a event where we can help get the word out, and just be boots on the ground for, at least 8 weeks.
So you are a teacher? Are you a government school teacher?
I teach in a local city. And, so obviously my time is, short in terms of that.
Can you pitch those people? Are you allowed to under whatever contract?
Not while, so there's all kinds of rules about, when you talk about political activity. So unfortunately, no.
How about your union?
So, the teachers union was great about getting behind the MCAS stuff, but I don't know that they would take a interest in this one. One thing that we've talked about is there's lawyers groups of lawyers who, are committed to upholding the ethics of the judiciary system. And so those are groups of people that we'd be interested in talking about. They might be motivated by this. So in terms of groups, that's one we've looked at.
I wish you the best with all of this, Michael. I'll be watching this week. I know I'll hear from you. And I would like it if you do make the ballot if you do make the first round by the Attorney General and you get some whatever the language is from the Secretary of State, I do wish that you would come by here and we can bring you on the air during the Monday through Friday show and try to get some signatures going.
I'd appreciate that. That's what we need that buzz. So that would be great. I would look forward to that.
All right. Michael DeToli, thank you for coming on to the program today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Good to be there. Take care.
You too. Michael DeToli, he is the chairman of the Massachusetts Recall Committee. They're trying to do a constitutional amendment to allow the yous and me's, the people who are allowed to vote, that if we think that there is somebody, whether it's the governor, lieutenant governor, auditor, treasurer, secretary of state, attorney general, district attorneys, or the sheriffs, or our county commissioners, if we think that they have done an injustice, broken a law, malfeasance, that we have the right to try to recall them. Is there anybody that's against that? 508-996-0500.
To change something, you must build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete.
I wanted to show the rabbis that Gaza is not something beyond reach.
Should be interesting. That's Daniela Weiss, who is fighting to get the Palestinians out of Gaza so the Israelis can build settlements in Gaza. Don't have to believe me. She says it all over the internet. Can't miss it. My thanks again to Michael DeToli, the chairman of the Massachusetts Recall Committee. What do you think about this? First, the knowledge that there is no recall process similar to, I guess, what happens in the city of New Bedford. We do know, after Jasel, that there is a recall, and not only Jasel, there have been others. There is a recall process in the city of Fall River. It just caught me completely off guard. I thought for some reason that there were elected officials, statewide type officials that we could recall. I had no idea that we could not. So I wholeheartedly support, first of all, this idea becoming a question. I will lend my signature, and look, I'll talk to the libertarians and see what we can do, and hopefully the Republicans, hopefully the Democrats, hopefully the independents. Can you give me, unless you are an elected official at the state rep and on up level, why you would not be in favor of allowing recall? And if you are a state rep or state senator, any of the elected officers that we have here in the Commonwealth, beyond city or town level, and you consider yourself trustworthy, good, et cetera, why wouldn't you be for it? Why would you not want to allow folks to recall whomever? And it's not an easy process, but it's a process that should be available. So, yeah, you could write me down. I'm in support of it. Oh, okay. So next hour, I'm going to actually bring it up right now. It's a follow-up on something we talked about on Brian's Beat last night, and it deals with the state flag. It's going to get a makeover. And I know it's controversial. Many people are saying just keep it the way it is. Some are saying keep it the way, just take the sword out of it. But it seems that there are some design, I shouldn't say it seems, they were introduced yesterday. New designs for a new state flag. And I had a chance to see the three major designs. Had a chance to see the three major seals under contention. And I've read the mottos. I can live with the mottos. They are public good. I'm just going to read the English because my Latin is really rusty, because I took Latin back when I was in high school, long time ago. The public good. What are the other two? Just one second. Flipping the page. Many voices, one Commonwealth. Okay. We honor all life guided by the first light. We rejoice in the public good. They're not great, but I can live with them. But the seal, like the seal, the emblem, the punch seal. North Atlantic right whale with a white chickadee. The star from the current flag is turned into a sun on a stylized landscape of the Commonwealth. And the third one is turkey feathers surrounding a chickadee. Whew. Doesn't get much better than that. And then we have a star in waves upon a blue hill and a Mayflower. I don't know. You can go back to the drawing board as far as I'm concerned and try to come up with something different. But interesting to note, none of the selected pieces have a Native American caricature. None of them. And it was pointed out by one of the Native Americans and another person on the committee, on the selection committee. So we can get into that during hour number 2. The other thing that I want to start bringing in, because it's becoming larger and larger and larger. I don't know if you want to call it a riff between Governor Healy and Boston Mayor Wu and the federal government. The feds keep on talking about bringing in federal troops to, do the ICE work and also to clean up shop around South Station. I'm kind of familiar with South Station, and while there is some construction going on and there's some dustiness, there's no need, I repeat, there is no need for federal agents to come in with brooms and mops.
The whole thing's unfortunate. I do think it was a political stunt.
What I witnessed in Gaza, I can only describe as a dystopian, post-apocalyptic wasteland. We, the United States, are complicit. We are involved, hand in hand.
I guess more and more folks are starting to figure that out. Oh, something I brought up yesterday. I did go into Stop and Shop today. I had to pick up a few items. I didn't see any pumpkins for sale outside. But when I was over at Shaw's, I mentioned this yesterday, they're still there, those.
Coach, the energy out there felt different. What changed for the team today?
It was the new game day scratchers from the California Lottery. Players everything. Those games sent the team's energy through the roof.
Are you saying it was the off-field play that made the difference on the field?
Hey, a little play makes your day, and today, it made the game. That's all for now.
Coach, one more question.
Play the new Los Angeles Chargers, San Francisco 49ers, and Los Angeles Rams Scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase, play, or claim.
Support American-made tariff-free clothing with American Giant with American Giant. They aren't affected by tariffs because their clothing products never left the U.S. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.